So welcome everybody to our coffee break this afternoon on the global pharma IP landscape. As a mature industry made up of an overseeable number of major players, the pharma industry is currently facing major changes and challenges, which imply disruptive shifts in various aspects. So, for example, pricing pressure, new emerging markets, new models of collaboration, and new technologies. Today, we will share some focus insights on changes in market protection, have a look at the overall view on the top players in the market. We'll focus on two of the players and the development of their portfolios in the recent years. And finally, we will take a look at a specific landscape of antiviral treatment. I'm here together with my colleague Shabani, who will share her expert view with us. My name is Joel. For explanation, when we talk about pharma, we exclude traditional Chinese medicine and cosmetics. So now let's have a first look at the geography. So what we see here is the global protection of patents in the pharma field. And what is striking is we can see two, let's say, focus countries or hotspots, which are the US and China. And what is interesting here is that if we go back 20 years and look at the development, well, we can observe that in the beginning of the 2000s, Japan was a focus market and the US was a focus market, with a couple of other countries following, especially in Europe. And then there has been a significant change over the years, and China became more and more important, and now becoming the most protected market in the world regarding IP in the pharma field. So Shabani, can we give some explanation to this development?
Yeah, but actually China will be very happy about this trend. It has amended its patent laws and the enforcing regulations quite a few number of times to be more and more compliant with the WTO. The most recent update in the regulations were in 2010, while the patent laws were last updated in 2008. The aim was to help China establish higher efficiency in the creation, utilization, protection, and administration of IP rights by 2020. It imposed strict laws against passing off patents and patent infringement, and encouraged more and more filing of patent applications by the domestic inventors. And this has led to a very high level of patent filings, as we find the trend here in the pharma field. However, if we go to the pharma field a bit more in details, one interesting point here is the main contributors to these growing priority filings in the pharmaceutical field are mainly the Chinese entities and inventors, with focus majorly on the Chinese market. There is only one foreign company that features in this list of top 20 companies as per the number of priority filings in the pharma field, and that company is Roche. This can definitely be attributed to Roche's strategy to focus on China as an emerging important market. It had identified China as a key market quite early and has been working towards establishing itself as a key player there. In 2018, Roche had declared to build a $126 million innovation center in Shanghai. The recent 2020 statement of the CEO of Roche, Dr. Schwan, states that Beijing's aim was clear, that to catch and eventually surpass the US life sciences industry via billions in investments in basic research, stronger intellectual property protection, and regulations that speed medicines from foreign companies like Roche and also the local players into the market. This is how we see the chart depicting in front of us, giving us that information.
Thank you very much. What I find quite interesting here is how industry policy has a direct impact on the dynamics and the development of IP and IP protection. So now let's go a step further. Let's have a look at the global IP in the field in terms of the top 10 players, top 10 global players that we can see here. Those are the top 10 by revenue worldwide, and all the others in the field. And what we see on the left-hand side is a chart showing us the number of active patents and for the year 2010. And on the right-hand side, we see the strength of those portfolios. And now, if we take a look at the development over time from 2010 to the current situation, we can observe interesting things. So first of all, what we see in terms of the amount of active patents in those portfolios is that the share of those top 10 active players has decreased significantly. And on the other hand, we see that the share of all others has increased by around 50%. And the same is also true for the right-hand side, for the patent strength. So overall, the share of the top 10 has decreased. But what is also interesting is if we look at the top 10 players and look at companies like Roche, for instance, even reducing their active portfolio, their number of active patents they own over the years, the strength of those portfolios has increased. So I find this quite intriguing. So maybe Sharbani, you could give us some more explanation on that.
As you have correctly pointed out, and probably we all sense it about the global pharmaceutical field, but probably never have seen this so explicitly before. The top 10 pharmaceutical companies are not only losing ground in this field in terms of quantity, but also in the terms of patent strength. This implies that the emerging companies, the new entrants, they have not only been contributing with new significant breakthrough innovations in this field, but also protecting them through proper IP rights, that is the patents. No wonder we see a very high activity of mergers and acquisitions in this field, and exclusive licensing is very common in this field. It is very commendable that Roche and Pfizer could hold on to their patent strength even when they're losing ground because of the emerging players here.
Interesting. So now then let's do something and let's have a closer look at two of those actors we just mentioned, Roche and Pfizer. They also are among the top 10 companies in the field with the highest R&D budgets. And so what we see here now is the situation in the year 2000 of their portfolios, their active patent portfolios, regarding the portfolio size, so the number of active families they owned at that time, versus the average quality of the portfolio. And again, let's have a look at the development over time, and let's see how this changed. What is interesting for the first years is that there has been a significant increase for both companies in the number of active patents. And then when we come to the year 2005, 2006, we can observe for Pfizer the portfolio starting to decrease very significantly. For Roche, this development starts later in the year 2012, 13, and then we can observe for both companies the decrease of active portfolio size and in the same time a significant increase in average quality of this portfolio. So that might seem at a first look quite positive, I would say. I mean, you reduce your portfolio size probably because you want to optimize the portfolio or reduce costs, and at the same time the quality of your portfolio is increasing. But I think that there are more complex explanations to that, Sharbani, isn't it?
Yes, when we look at the portfolio development of companies in the pharma field, it always makes sense to have a more detailed analysis of their development over time. This decade has been that of patent cliffs for both Roche and Pfizer. Pfizer started to face patent cliffs since 2012 when the patents for its blockbuster drugs started to expire. Pfizer's cholesterol-lowering drug Lipitor, the best-selling prescription drug in the world history, expired in 2012. Such is the effect of it, Pfizer itself brought the generic form of Lipitor, atorvastatin, into the market after its expiry with the collaboration with an Indian company, Ranbaxy. The other arthritis drug, Celebrex, patents expired in 2014. The antibiotic Zyvox patents expired in 2015. Viagra is going to expire this year in USA. However, the most difficult blow came on Pfizer due to the expiration of Lyrica in 2019. Lyrica was a major blockbuster drug for Pfizer. It was accorded rights for multiple indications. The first primary protection was for anxiety and epilepsy, whereas the secondary protection was for neuropathic pain. Pfizer had aggressively strategized to extend the patent term for Lyrica as much as possible. However, it lost its primary protection around 2015 and secondary in 2018 and 2019. Please let's not be surprised if we see or get some current news or very recent news in this year or maybe the coming few years about some acquisitions or exclusive licensing coming from Pfizer. As Joel pointed out, such a situation dawned upon Roche in the more recent years. It dawned upon Roche that it started to face patent cliffs because of the expiration of its blockbuster anti-cancer drugs. Roche's blockbuster anti-cancer drugs were breakthrough innovations in this field. However, its first expiry was that of Herceptin. It expired in Europe in 2014 and in US in 2019. Such is the competition there that the generic companies Mylan and Biocon got their Herceptin biosimilars approved in USA by the FDA in December 2017. The other drugs, Rituxan patent expired in 2018 in USA, and another one, Avastin, will expire this year. Roche's oncology drugs have contributed significantly to its sales, and the innovations have been definitely cited as relevant prior art for all subsequent inventions. However, probably now we will understand better the significance of the statement of Roche in 2020, where it states it forecasts a growth in 2020 on the basis of the sales of its newer drugs and its increased sales in none other than China.
Thank you very much, Shabani. What I also find interesting here is when we think of how to look at patent data or processed patent information, like the one we can see here, it's very important to note and to be aware that any development has complex reasons. So it's not always an easy answer to what you can see, but you have to dig into it and you have to relate it to what is going on in the business. Thank you very much. So now let's do something and let's become more specific. And as we are still living in the context of the COVID-19 situation or crisis, as we might call it, let's go and have a look into the antiviral treatment and the IP behind it. So what we see here now is the development of the portfolio sizes. That means the active patents in the pharma field regarding the treatment of various virus families over the years, starting in the year 2000. And what I can observe here, of course, very clearly is we have on the top two positions, we have treatments against Flaviviridae and Coronaviridae. Of course, thinking of Coronaviridae, we can have a look at the development here, as there were outbreaks of SARS in 2002 and MERS in 2012. We might expect some spikes, which we can actually see here after 2004. For the patents active in that field, and a little bit less after 2012. But definitely what is striking is the development of Picornaviridae and Flaviviridae. Shabani, maybe you can add some more insights to this.
Yeah, this is an aspect of the pharma field where we see R&D activity, patenting activity is directed by the expanse of the effect of the diseases and the infection. As you correctly pointed out, the patenting activity does show a spike with respect to the coronavirus family after the SARS outbreak and after the MERS outbreak. However, if you look at the flavivirus and the picoronavirus family, we may understand why there is such a high activity targeting these viruses. Flavivirus family includes yellow fever virus, dengue virus, Japanese encephalitis virus, and the Zika virus. These mosquito-borne viral infections of dengue, of Zika outbreaks have been reported over and over again, affecting a large part of the world. Zika virus outbreaks have been reported in 2007, 2013, and 2015. Brazil was acutely affected in 2015, and so were the North American and South American countries, as well as the Southeast Asian countries. It was declared in 2016 as a public health emergency of international concern by the World Health Organization, similar to what has happened regarding the COVID-19 in 2019 and 2020. And we do see a resurgence of activity in regard to patents in the flavivirus family after 2016. The picoronavirus family causes a wider range of illnesses than most other, if not all other virus families. Poliomyelitis, aseptic meningitis, hepatitis A are some of the deadly diseases that are caused by the viruses in this family. As soon as I mention polio, I think it becomes quite evident that vaccine against such diseases will be required generation after generation as long as the human civilization exists. And this is what is actually what's going on. There are two kinds of polio vaccine, the inactivated polio vaccine IPV and the oral polio vaccine OPV. Since 2005, it's only the IPV that is allowed in the US, whereas the developing countries still follow the oral vaccination method. IPV is an injectable vaccine, so it can be administered alone or in combination with other vaccines like that targeting the hepatitis B, influenza virus, etc. The top companies are working consistently in vaccine development against coronavirus families. GSK has come up with different conjugated vaccines and still coming up with new vaccines till date. And the history of Pfizer and coronavirus family goes back long in the history. So it's not surprising that we have the maximum activity in this field.
Thank you, Shabani. What comes up into my mind here is also another aspect, or you basically mentioned that, and we also introduced that, is the issue or the topic of emerging markets, which is actually one of the challenges of the pharma industry. And we can clearly see this in what you just explained to us regarding antiviral treatment. So now let's take another look and let's include the top 10 players we had a look at before in this field of antiviral treatment. So we have those 10 players here, the largest by revenue worldwide, and we see how many active patents they currently own in the field of antiviral treatment by the different virus families addressed. So now, thinking of the current situation and not being so much into this topic, what's striking for me when I go through the news recently, I read a lot about AstraZeneca and coronavirus treatment and vaccine being developed. And so what I see here is that there is virtually no activity, currently no activity in the portfolio of AstraZeneca regarding antiviral treatment. How can that be explained, Shabani?
Yeah, that's a very good observation, actually. And this actually highlights why the study and analysis of patents becomes so important and relevant. You're right, AstraZeneca is in the news as front runners in bringing the COVID-19 vaccine into the market. However, the invention is not that of AstraZeneca. It is bringing it with the collaboration with the University of Oxford. Oxford University started working on the vaccination against the MERS coronavirus, targeting the spike protein of the virus. And now with AstraZeneca, it is in the clinical trials to bring the vaccination into the market. Pfizer is also in the news about COVID-19 vaccine, but again, that is because of its collaboration with BioNTech. So as you correctly pointed out, when we hear the news, if we have the patent data, we actually know the entire story.
Actually, yes. And what I find here also probably very interesting to point out is this aspect of collaboration. This is also something we can observe for the pharma industry, the challenge of new collaboration models, and this is what you actually pointed out here with AstraZeneca and also with Pfizer together with BioNTech. So I would totally agree. When we look at the news, when we study how developments are going on in the business, in the market, we should definitely add professionally processed patent data and IP data, because this will complete our image and this will provide more insights to understand better what is actually going on and what is going to go on. And so, well, I think this is absolutely necessary. Thank you, Shabani. Thank you very much for sharing your expert view with us. And thank you very much to the audience. I hope we were able to provide you interesting insights into the pharma field from the perspective of the IP landscape and its development. And whenever you have more questions, more detailed questions, whenever you would like to know more in detail about, well, looking at markets and industries from the perspective of IP data and IP information, please do not hesitate to contact us. It will be a pleasure for us to exchange views with you. Thank you very much, and Hopefully we'll see you soon in another coffee break. Bye-bye.
Thank you.